Just to get started, I would like to talk about you as a wrestler because I think that you've been on an outstanding singles run this year between CMLL, between Ring of Honor, New Japan, MLW. You've been killing it. I would say that match versus Mystico on Rampage was absolutely excellent. And so you've had a very long career, obviously, but what keeps you reinvigorated in the year 2023 to continue to like just be a world beater and go everywhere and kill it?
Honestly, I think I so many years I kind of took like a more of a, like a not a backstage role, of course, but like also just kind of been in the back for the most part. That I feel like, there's still a lot left in the tank for me, and that, and I'm trying to do my best work that I can before it's all kind of said and done. Not that I'm saying that it's going to happen anytime soon, but you just never know in this business, and what opportunities might be presented to me, because I am doing more stuff backstage. So I kind of wanted to take this year to kind of just focus on myself and the in-ring stuff. And some amazing opportunities were presented to me, and Tony, at AEW was very gracious in letting me have his stage to work against Mystico, and and MLW, when they presented the idea to come over there and work with them. I was just kind of like totally into it, and the same thing goes with CMLL. So yeah, I feel like a lot of people kind of forget about me and kind of forget about that, like I am a pretty good wrestler, in the end, and I kind of have a ton of experience. So yeah, I just want to keep kind of proving that over the next couple of years, and really take maybe what might be the last few years of my career in ring, and kind of really like give it the best shot that I can.
I think pretty good wrestler is definitely an understatement, but you've had really
Thank you.
great matches this year. Some of my personal favorites, I loved the work that you did with Lee Moriarty over in Ring of Honor. And this year, I feel like junior heavyweight wrestling has made a great resurgence here in the US and just all over the world. And we've seen some awesome stuff, including All Star Junior Fest, which I was fortunate to be in attendance for. So, what are what is your vision for junior heavyweight wrestling, both in the US and globally, as a wrestler, as well as somebody who, is, you know, making things happen behind the scenes as well?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. I feel like junior heavyweight wrestling is like super important to me personally. The first like real the introduction to Japanese wrestling was through the J Cups, the first two. So it's kind of always had a big impact on me because I am a junior heavyweight wrestler. I'll never be a heavyweight wrestler, and that kind of opened up the door for me to have a career. So then you talk about the cruiserweight division in WCW, and what a huge impact that was on professional wrestling, and especially guys like me, because I definitely felt like, whoa, we can have jobs in big companies, and look how, like the kind of the sky's the limit, right? So for me, it's still something that's, obviously like the business is changing, and it's kind of more of an open weight business, especially in America. But I still do think like for New Japan, it's such a staple, and it's kind of what sets New Japan apart from some of the other companies, is, especially AEW and WWE, that junior heavyweights are important and they're successful. And, you look at somebody like Hiromu, who, has really transcended, just being a junior heavyweight, and having just that label. He's like, no one since, Jushin Thunder Liger has really done what he's done. So I'd like to see more of that. I'd like to see more crossover between the juniors challenging the heavyweights, and being successful instead of just kind of sitting back in the distance. So I think having a strong junior heavyweight presence, and also keep pushing the narrative of junior heavyweight, because that's what separates us from everybody else. And yeah, I just really love the style, and there's so many great and talented wrestlers that fit in that category, and yeah, just gonna keep seeing it, kind of prosper.
Yeah, I felt like All Star Junior Fest was one of the best shows this year, and I feel like it didn't get a lot of credit for it. Like, I felt like it was super special to be able to bring that many different talents from all over the world, from different promotions. Like, like one match, like you have Nick Wayne and Jordan Oliver versus El Desperado and Mao, or then you have like a ladder match for some cheesesteaks, and then like you'll have like this incredible tournament that's happening, throughout with, we have Mike Bailey, you have Francisco Akira, you have Kevin Knight, you have Clark Connors. Like, it was just such a mixture. You have like people signed promotions from the indies. Like, it was just such a mixture of all the things that I think makes wrestling special. You had some serious spots, you had some unserious spots. What are for that specific event, like, would you like to see like it possibly be expanded? Are you happy with like how it happened this year to just keep doing that? Or what's the future of like, that all-star junior festival type event going forward?
Yeah. No, I had this conversation with Hiromu after. Obviously, like something like that, it takes a lot of planning, and there's a lot of favors that you got to ask, and it's not something that's easily done. So, kind of with that in mind, I don't think it's something that we could probably do every year. I think it's more of like a J Cup every 3 to 4 years, something that's special. That the Olympics that you wait for, it to come around, in 4 years. So, I think that that's more of the plan. I think that's more reasonable for setting it all up and executing it well. And plus, like I think 3 or 4 years gives a chance for new talent to kind of come up, and then so that we're not just using the same, you know, 30 guys or 40 guys or whatever it might be. Here's an opportunity to, you know, look for new talent, up and coming talent. Some people will have moved on to, other things. So that kind of gives a certain like specialty around it, kind of like I think the J Cup was the perfect model for it. So I think something similar to that would definitely be the way to go.
So speaking of like that specific model, obviously this year the New Japan Strong brand has introduced a women's division that has been extremely diverse, and I think has been a great addition to the New Japan Strong product. We've seen so many women come in from Willow Nightingale, Mercedes Moné, Julia. We have Hyan, who was recently had a match, and so even obviously coming through the New Japan Academy works, Trisha Dora. And so, piggybacking off of that framework for the All Star Junior Festival, could there be a potential or any interest in doing that type of tournament, that type of festival, but for women? Bringing in from
Mm,
different promotions all over the world, from the indies talents, because the talent, like the diversity of talent that New Japan Strong has been able to put in front of the audience this year, I think has been fantastic. And so, would that ever be something you've ever been interested in or ever even thought about?
yeah,
Hey,
I mean, honestly,
could I just tack
yeah.
on one thing to that? What do you think is the perception among the domestic audience in Japan towards adding women to the card versus, you know, people like Lyric and I who are just think it's just the coolest thing in the world to see Willow
Mhm,
Nightingale in a New Japan ring. Could you just kind of add that on to the question?
sure. I mean, honestly, I haven't really given it much thought, but I honestly think it's a really, really great idea. Like, thank you. Hopefully, I'll get to use that one day. But uh, yeah, I mean, like having a women's division in Strong, especially is obviously super important. I think for the brand, and especially trying to make Strong as different as possible from the New Japan Japanese brand is important, right? So it goes along with the same thing as like setting ourselves like the junior heavyweight division sets New Japan apart from everyone else. So I think for the Strong brand, it's something that fans have been waiting for a long time. And when we were able to introduce it, and obviously our sister company Stardom has so many great talents, like unbelievable talents that don't get to really come over to America much, and or internationally. So we have this huge roster, and it's full of depth. So I feel like we should be using that, and it's also pointing back towards Stardom, and getting people to get introduced to the Stardom product. So I think it's kind of a win for everybody overall. And I do think like a women's wrestling summit of some sort could be a really cool idea in kind of progressing that completely. um the perception, I think, in Japan, I'm not really sure. I feel like, obviously, like, New Japan has its hardcore fans, and they've kind of like are so into like the traditional aspects of it. But then you go and you see, when we did New Japan Strong in Japan, how well received the women's match, both nights were, so especially Julia and Willow. So I think, even if fans are kind of more traditionalists, I feel like they're becoming more open to the idea of having women on a traditional New Japan card, and I think a Strong was a good way to kind of open the doors a little bit more. But also, I think that fans really understand that how talented the women are, and how talented the roster really is. So I think in time, and it's just a kind of a cool new addition to New Japan, to New Japan Strong as well. And yeah, I love being able to work with Stardom. And, it's been really cool, and I feel like there's we're just scratching the surface, and we still got a lot more to go. Obviously, like with the New Japan Academy being open, like we're finding brand new talents, male and female. Like you said, Trisha Dora is a standout. Johnny Robbie is a standout. From that first class, in my opinion, those are the two that stood out the most, and that's why when we did the Academy show, they were the main event. So, and we're able to get Johnny over to CMLL this year. She did the Grand Prix. So I want to definitely reward people who are talented, who come through the doors of the academy, and give them opportunities just as much as we would if we had the kind of dojo system, traditional dojo system. But as we go along, we find these great talents. Giving them opportunities and trying to help their careers along in any way possible is super important. So yeah, I'm excited about the women's division. I think there's a lot left to kind of prove and go. And I wish that we had, like, right now we're kind of doing pay-per-view model. So I wish that we had more shows in between to really develop storylines and develop the characters the way that I would really, really love to. That's like the one thing that I think Strong is missing is I feel like we got spoiled with doing the Strong tapings and being able to develop everybody the way we really like. I enjoyed it. I think a lot of fans, were able to build a really hardcore audience in Japan and internationally as well. But it's so crazy to me that with the introduction of Tom Lawler and Fred Rosser, kind of being the head of that, how much over they were when they finally got to Japan, and people actually knew what their what they were going through, their characters, they knew their music, they knew everything. So I think in time we'll do the same thing with the women's division.
That's a perfect segue, because I was just about to ask the vision for like the future of Strong, because like I think the tapings were such a great thing. I think a lot of people took them for granted until they were gone, and then it's just like, oh my gosh, I missed them so much. I think it was such an interesting concept that you don't find typically on regular American wrestling TV, and it was really a different style. And so obviously the Strong pay-per-views this year have been excellent, starting from Battle in the Valley up until most recently. And so obviously you talked about a little bit, but just expound on what would you like to see going forward, especially in 2024 for New Japan Strong, and the integration of some of those New Japan Academy standouts in Strong going forward.
Yeah, so I think the another cool concept that we've introduced is the strong survivor match. So basically, it started with Matt Vandergriff versus Buck at the last show, and basically the winner, you'll be fighting for your spot on the card, which is kind of like old school in a sense. Like I used to do it when I was an amateur wrestler in high school. You every week, even though like there might be a better guy at my weight, we'd have to do a little wrestle off every week to earn the spot to go, to be in that weight, in that weight class for that week in whatever tournament we were. So I think it's a cool concept, and I think obviously it adds a bit more because it's almost like the US of J angle, and the fact that like it's not exactly a championship, but you have to defend something, and there's some stakes to it rather than just doing a match. So I think it's a cool concept. I think it's fresh and new, and probably in 3 or 4 shows, people start to really catch on to it. So yeah, I think Matt Vandergriff is a great standout from the academy as well. So giving him an opportunity. I think there's another way about it, to maybe having the both opening kind of dark matches being one women's match, one male match. So I think that could work out in the future. But I think for now, I think it's just about introducing overall, like, here's the championship, here's the women that are in the division, and then maybe in the future we can get a strong survivor match for the women's division. Yeah, and then overall with strong, I mean, I would love to bring back some kind of weekly show for strong, on world, and possibly like the hope would be in some other ways that we can distribute it, whether it's through television or through streaming, or some other places. But I just think the concept works so well for the American division, like, and it's kind of traditional to like what American fans are used to, and then we put our own little twist on it, where it's really about the wrestling, it's about the championships, it's about these great rivalries. When somebody does pick up a mic to do a promo, it's something that actually means something that's important, instead of just doing it just to fill time. So I also love that.
If I could, just the name Strong in terms of brand power. The name Strong seems to have really woven its way both into New Japan and Stardom, with Julia saying, I want the strongest, only the strongest women, then Trish Adora bucking up. Also over in Stardom on the Nagoya show, October 6th, Siri took to the mic. She said, where's the hard cam? I want all of the strongest women and only the strongest women to come fight me in Japan. Are you surprised as to how well the brand power has kind of evolved and developed, and kind of the wrestlers have taken to it over in Japan?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, when we were creating the of what this product was going to be, we knew we need to have a strong name for it. So yeah, no, I think it's cool, and that obviously is such a play off of what New Japan is, right? Strong style, and kind of what it's known for and been known for the last 50 years. So I love that branding has started to really pick up, and there's so much plays on it, and because it gets people to talk about the brand, right? So I do feel really good about the branding of New Japan of America, and like I mean, I think it's for us, it's just a matter of more people seeing the product, and that's what it's all about. I think that we're kind of like the underground version of New Japan in a way. It's really for the hardcores that are looking for an alternative to the alternative, or looking for an alternative to some of the mainstream stuff that just isn't like working for them exactly, right? But here, when we were doing the taping shows, we would have a 40-minute show to an hour max, and that was the cool thing about being on streaming, is that we could play with the times, and it doesn't have to, always be a 2-hour show. Some episodes you might get a little bonus of an extra, 5 or 10 minutes, depending on, if we had a big main event. And you weren't struggling with trying to make TV time work, so like there's so many times when on TV, you have a big main event, but then some things go over time and then you have to cut your main event down, or maybe you might be able to get an extra 2 minutes on the back end, so that's the power of streaming, is being able to just kind of do that freely. And I think it works for the New Japan product better, than being constrained, by TV time. So but obviously, open to whatever, if there was a TV deal that came through through the pipeline, and then we could obviously easily adjust to it. I'm sure, we learned a lot in the 2 years that we ran Strong on a weekly basis. And it was a great opportunity for myself to kind of learn in that process too, because not really my background. I'm not, I've never been a TV wrestler. So um, definitely learned a lot. And yeah, and I think that there's still a lot of stuff that we could do better, by far. And I think it was always cool to watch when people did praise Strong, and talk about, it being, the best, weekly TV show, whatever you want to call it, episodic wrestling. It's just, we were, being on World is just, it's a small community, so but I mean, like I said, we were able to build a whole community of wrestling fans in Japan that were primarily watching Strong every week and dedicated to the pay-per-views and tuning in. So yeah, I think that's the ultimate goal, would be to bring that back in that format, so that we can, like I said, we can really produce strong angles, strong storylines, and also have focus on the up and coming wrestlers and giving them enough time to actually work things out and develop.
Awesome. I'm a huge fan of Strong, and so I look forward to the future of the product, including this week. There's Lonestar Shootout coming up in Dallas on, wow, tomorrow. Now that I think about it, it's tomorrow. But obviously you are a man who wears many hats, between being a wrestler, between being a booker, and also being a bridge builder and a relationship manager in modern pro wrestling, between all of these different companies and promotions and styles. So what does it mean to you and how do you balance all of those different hats that you're wearing all at the same time?
Balance is a good word. I don't know if how much I really have balancing all of this. It's more like, the guys with the saucers on like a sticks, it feels like that sometimes, and sometimes you drop a bunch and then, but you just keep going. Um, yeah, I hope, obviously, like I want to be remembered as a great wrestler, and hopefully I'll have some cool opportunities in the next few years before I do retire, that people will remember me by that. But at least if not, then I hope that they'll remember all the cool things that I was able to, connect, really. Because I feel like, I mean, really, in the end, I'm just kind of like this connector, when stuff seems to make sense and there seems to be business there, it just kind of like, why are we so worried about our egos and things that have happened in the past and all this other stuff? I mean, if we really want to make a cool product, and we really want to bring fans who have already seen everything, that's the thing in professional wrestling at this point, is like, it's hard to do new things, right? We've seen it all and done it all. So, why not bring some of these walls down, and let's try to do some cool stuff that will create business, and it'll work out for everybody, like with the AEW and CMLL thing. Obviously, like, AEW is in a highly, Latino market, and they could use something really special that week. And, Tony and I had been talking about, how could we, bring Mystico in? How could CMLL get introduced into AEW? And when that opportunity came, and especially to where we were at, I mean, obviously it helped AEW and selling more tickets. And it also brought CMLL to a national light here, in the US. And people hadn't seen Mystico wrestle on TV, national TV, in a long time. So it kind of was just a win-win for everybody. It all really made sense. And yeah, I mean, we saw when Tony put out the graphic, I mean, it got millions of hits, millions and millions of views. So, obviously it worked, so it's nice when things kind of work out that way. And it wasn't easy, the conversations, between CMLL and trying to get them, because they're very traditional and they've been doing things one way for a very long time. So it's hard to sometimes break that, So I'm just glad it worked out, and I feel like there's definitely going to be some more crossover in the next couple months. There's some stuff being discussed, so hopefully, it keeps going that route and still stays positive. And but yeah, I mean, I'm doing the same thing with New Japan. Whether they're bigger deals like AEW and Forbidden Door, or even smaller stuff, with New Japan Strong and MLW. I think MLW's got a really great product, and I think what they've done and how they built it is been really cool. Primarily on YouTube and through those kind of distribution platforms. So I feel like it's the perfect place to have New Japan Strong talent kind of enter into MLW and get the reps, especially since we're not doing the weekly show. So I feel like that's a perfect place, where we could have some crossover. We could have also build some angles if for our pay-per-views, and kind of have like a system where people can go and work there and hone their skills. And then our other big partner, Impact, or TNA, I should say now, or soon to be TNA. Yeah, they've been awesome. Obviously, working with them got us back on Access. Thursday nights are a big night for wrestling on Access. The Impact show before, and then the New Japan show after. So just kind of like building that relationship back and forth, and that was a completely dead relationship. Like New Japan said they would never work with Impact or TNA ever, and now we're both on the same nights, on the same night, back to back. And Scott D'Amore has been amazing to work with, and TNA has an amazing roster, and they've also got the Knockouts division is spectacular. If when you break it down, it's one of the strongest women's divisions in all of wrestling. So to hopefully introduce them into the Strong side a little bit more would be cool, or maybe even into Stardom would be awesome. So I think there's just so much potential, and like I said, it's just another thing that we're just kind of scratching the surface with. But maybe 2024 will bring more of that stuff together.
Absolutely. And I look forward to seeing it. That was all of my questions. Thank you, Rocky.